Hello, we are live. So yeah, I am Wiz. I'm hopefully all know that because you've signed up to be here, which is super exciting. So I'm the founder of WIZZ&CO. I help brands and retailers create deeper connections with customers to increase market share. I'm absolutely obsessed with customer behaviour. I speak regularly on the topic, and I also contribute to publications such as Cosmetic Business Trend Reports, recently WGSN, The Guardian, You Magazine, and I'll put WGSN twice in my notes. So I work with a cross-section of brands at WIZZ&CO, from global brands and retailers to indie brand founders. And it's not about the size of the business, but the ambition. And these businesses all share the same values. So a desire to disrupt and innovate, and they're passionate and they're not scared to take action. So thank you very much for joining today. I'm delighted to have such a diverse audience that's signed up. I've seen that there's journalists, there's leaders of established brands and retailers, lots of indie brands, and also some investors as well. So thank you all for taking the time out of your day to come and listen to what I've got to say. So of course the topic is a trend presentation. I'm going to be talking about the customer purchasing habits in a post-pandemic world. So I've split this down into three sections: the importance of trust and authenticity with customers, what people will be buying and why, and the evolution of retail, physical versus digital. Lots of trends have been fast-tracked over the last year. I'm going to talk about what they are and how to adapt to them in this kind of post-pandemic world. And also on each section, I will be sharing ideas that you can action for strategic growth to harness this shift in customer behaviour. At the end, I will be taking questions as well. So please add any of the questions to the Q&A section. I can see that there's lots of comments coming through, so great to introduce yourselves to each other. I would love to know who's here, what you do and why, and what you want to find out today. I'll be doing a few check-ins in there, but mostly I'll be presenting. So please put the questions that you have for the end into the Q&A section. So there's a chat and a Q&A section. So it's important that we put them in there, because I think they might get lost otherwise. So I will come to those at the end. So you can also check out our website. Laura's kindly added those to the comments as well. Please follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram. I don't know whether you can pin that at the top, Laura, might be helpful. And please tag us with what your key takeaway is and any actions that you're going to take away from the insights that you hear today. I love hearing your feedback. It is so valuable for the content that I continue to create for my audience. And also, if you are listening to this on a recording, please also still continue to post and let me know in the future. I've had such a great sign up and reaction to this. This may develop into a trend series, who knows? So keep your eyes peeled. So without further ado, we're going to kick off and we're going to talk about the importance of trust and authenticity with customers. So one of the most exciting things I've heard happen recently, which I'm sure you'll agree with, is this kind of losing trust with influencers. I mean, the influencer boom was absolutely huge, and there's still a lot of influencers out there, and I'm not tarnishing them all with the same brush. But what I am saying is becoming much more customer centric. I'm certainly not slating these influencers, because they've built some great businesses and have really allowed a lot of brands and customers to be able to connect the dots and find each other in a really great way. But there has been quite a few things that have been quite challenging. So there have been some new standards put in by the Advertising Standards Agency, which is super exciting. Obviously, there was the disclosure of the paid adverts. So people now have to be posting if something's a gift or they're being paid. And also, particularly for beauty, it's super exciting that filters can no longer be used to promote beauty products. So this is super exciting, particularly in a world where we're constantly comparing ourselves, and this younger generation as well, that I know we're all concerned about, is comparing ourselves to these people that are kind of holding their stomach in or kind of got these amazing filters on their face, and it's just not true life. And customers are really savvy to that as well. So this is really there to protect the consumer. So this is super exciting. But actually kind of delving a bit deeper into that influencer marketing is actually Mintel said that 40% of UK adults trust influencers and educators more if they don't push them to buy any products. So influencers are also now turning to being more authentic as well, because they know they need to be authentic to be able to really engage with their audience. So that's really important for them as well. We've also seen the rise of brands teaming up with celebrities as creative directors, which I think is quite an interesting one. We've always had celebrities as the face of a brand, being paid a lot of money for an advert, but actually we now get these celebrities as creative directors, which I think is quite an interesting evolution. But actually the reason they're doing this is because they don't necessarily have a founder at the helm. And this is where we're seeing the real power of founder-led brands. We've obviously got some amazing ones out there like Charlotte Tilbury, kind of a lot of fashion designers as well. But it's where the brands are the true face of the brand and they're super visible are the ones that are really, really winning. And this is often can be where established brands start to lose their spark and connection with customers if they don't have this face. So they're having to turn to these celebrities to be the face of their brand. Communities and tribes are also winning in the industry. So for a long time, we've talked about Glossier and Glossier Gals, kind of their hashtag and their community they've created, which is super exciting. And they have true loyal customers and true brand advocates and people that are kind of talking about the brand to their friends and really promoting the brand for them. I think one of the challenges that Glossier has presented in the industry is created this misconception of how easy it is to scale a D2Z business. And the word D2Z, direct to consumer, is bandied about a lot. But actually, it can be quite expensive to develop this direct-to-consumer business model. Glossier, you need to remember, had $1 million funding before they started to really get going on this. So it is a real challenge to create a wholly direct-to-consumer business. And this is often where retailers are still really, really important. And as a lot of you know, I've spent a huge amount of time working with retailers. I spent 12 amazing years at Selfridges. So obviously kind of leaders in retail and customer experience. But retail and your distribution strategy is still really important. And it's not all about your direct to consumer business. So, but it's about how you kind of create the right hybrid and the right mix of sales and distribution channels to really be able to drive your business forward, but also create that community of customers or your tribe, which is so important to building a brand. And we've seen a lot of brands in the last 12 months really starting to think about new ways to innovate and connect with customers kind of in the digital space. Some big brands like Bare Minerals, for example, created kind of an amazing event with Hailey Bieber, who's their ambassador, inspired by kind of an on the couch with Oprah and Obama interview, using the kind of the same technology where they weren't in the same place, but kind of that AR superimposed onto sitting opposite each other on a couch. Brands like SkinCeuticals have also done the same, and they created quite intimate events. They only had 120 people come to their events, for example, but actually there was a really great way to create highly engaged content for some of their best customers. I think what's really interesting about this is customers want to learn, they want to be educated, they want to get access to people that they may not be able to get access to on a one-to-one basis. So this is a real opportunity for brands to be able to connect more closely with customers. And a lot of the time as well with these brands, if they're creating these digital events, it's then how this content can be repurposed and making sure it's evergreen. So for example, you've signed up for this event today, probably only 50% of people that have signed up will probably attend at the time that it's on. But then most people will then catch up with it afterwards, or people that didn't sign up in the first place can then also watch the replay as well. So really people are kind of getting used to consuming digital content in lots of different ways. And also this is the way that I deliver kind of my online education programs to my members as well. It's a hybrid of lives, but also content that they can access in their own membership hub whenever they want to as well. So it's really about thinking about the customer, thinking about where and when they want to consume that content, and then creating those kind of communities and events for them. So whatever brand you are, whatever size of business, you have a massive opportunity to create this community and create events for your customers that align to your brand values and the customer's brand values. Customers really, really want to be educated. An amazing indie brand that's doing this that I've been working with for the last year is called Yugi Botanicals. She does candle making workshops and is super engaged with her audience, and has even started doing new workshops that have been voted for by her audience. So whatever size of business, it's something that you can implement into your content and, I suppose, community strategy. A new opportunity that we're seeing as well is Clubhouse. It's obviously the newest social media platform, and it's a great way to create a conversation, create rooms with, again, a very engaged audience. Who are your true loyal fans, and how do you create them into brand advocates? So there's lots of opportunities if you're a brand to be able to connect with your audience, but there is also a great way if you are a brand and you want to learn more about building and scaling your brand as well. There's lots of experts in there who can advise you on strategies to implement, but also you can hear from some other brands that you may admire, that you might not necessarily ever get access to or be able to speak to. And you could be in the same room as them and potentially get on stage and ask them a question. So it's just making the world is getting smaller, and kind of that connection is really being elevated, which is super exciting. I would warn you though, when you are in Clubhouse, it's very easy to get overwhelmed as well. There's a huge amount of information in there. There's lots of chat rooms going on as well. And I think sometimes information overload can be too much. But that's also developing very, very quickly as well. We're seeing they're trialing the paid versions, paid opportunities for creators as well. So I think this is going to be really interesting to see how this pans out as well. And it is like with any new social media channel, whether it's TikTok, for example, when that launched, you could very quickly organically grow on there. Same with Instagram as well. Back in the day, you could definitely grow organically there. So these social media platforms, when they first start, are there. They want this engagement and kind of this organic reach very, very quickly before they start implementing kind of the paid advertising. So this is an opportunity to potentially trial a new platform. I always think it's useful to trial these platforms and whether you continue with them or not, but it's a great way to potentially reach a new audience organically. Again, one of the founders that I've worked with very closely is Pavan Henna, and she created a huge following kind of 7 years ago with Instagram, and again a couple of years ago with TikTok. She now gets sponsored by TikTok and features in their adverts as well, because she's created so much engaging content for audiences. So it's a great opportunity, whatever size of your brand, to create some new organic followers as well. So some actions kind of from this trust and transparency and authenticity, and how do you create that with your customer? So if you're a founder, you really, really need to be visible. Is my advice, and it's a challenge that I see over and over again with a lot of people. This is your sweet spot. This is your massive opportunity to be your own influencer. You don't need to worry about these big influencers that potentially you can't afford. You really need to think about how can you come into your own and tell your story about your brand, about your business, about your values. So really make sure that you're becoming a visible founder of your brand. Another opportunity, if you don't necessarily have a business that's got a founder at the helm, and even if you do have a founder-led business, is user-generated content. This is an absolutely massive, massive opportunity that I am just seeing everywhere at the moment, and brands are scaling really quickly from this. I've seen brands probably have been, if you wear makeup, you've probably been sponsored by Il Maquillage, which has been the foundation matching brand during lockdown. I've been seeing it all the time. Lots of hair brands such as Bondi Boost is one that I've been seeing as well. So it's a really interesting way to get customer reviews, and people are relating a lot more directly to somebody who looks like them, somebody who might have the same hair problem or the skin problem as them, or the same body shape if it's fashion. So it's really thinking about how can you encourage your customers to leave you content reviews, videos, pictures, written content, because it's a much higher conversion rate than it would be with an influencer who a customer might not be able to relate to, because they then seem that they're kind of completely out of their reach. So let's talk a little bit about transparency. I think this is a really, really interesting one. So I saw a really interesting Business of Fashion report about sustainability in fashion. And this was focusing on transmissions, emissions, water and chemicals that's being used in their products and manufacture. And they're really focusing on kind of the big corporates and who's doing well and who's not, ranking them, kind of really announcing what their percentage rate is. And it was interesting, like for example, Kering was 53%, was super high compared to its benchmark, whereas kind of Richemont Group was super low. And the same with sportswear as well. Nike was up there, so was Puma and Adidas, but where somewhere like Under Armour was at 1%. So there's this real transparency now, certainly with the big corporates as well, that they're having to work really hard, and so they should be, to be able to really reduce their impact on the planet ultimately. So transparency is really important. And I think this is also really interesting because 5 or 10 years ago, customers wouldn't have known which houses or groups would have owned some of these big brands, whether it was Estee Lauder Corporation, the L'Oreal Group, Kering, Richemond's, LVMH, for example. People can now understand and have visibility of which brands are owned by which companies. So it's super important that not only the brands are transparent, but also the groups as well. We've seen some interesting moves with Unilever recently as well. Their new campaign is No to Normal and Yes to Positive Beauty. So they're removing the word normal that's used in a lot of their products. So this is for normal skin, for example. So I think, again, a really positive move. Unilever has often been quite dynamic in the way they kind of make changes and implement new campaigns. I mean, you can just think of the Dove campaigns that many, many years ago were so diverse. But actually, it's these big corporations that really need to be leading this as well, particularly in sustainability. I mean, some of the biggest producers of the plastic in the world, for example, are the corporations such as Unilever and obviously their colleagues as well. So it's really important that people are being really transparent about what's happening, because there's also a huge amount of greenwashing as well. Customers are super savvy to this, so it's really thinking about how can you be as transparent as possible about the journey that you're going on as well. And it's not about claiming something if you can't. It's about saying, this is what I want to do. I might not be able to afford it, or it's in the pipeline. It's going to take some time to progress this. But it's really about taking customers on that journey as well. So really think about the ethics of the brand to really build trust and authenticity. Another big gap that I've seen in this kind of transparency is, I suppose, diversity within age groups as well. And a massive opportunity for brands is focusing on this Generation X, which is people aged 38 to 53. They've essentially fallen off the radar amongst so many marketeers, and they're often referred to as kind of the forgotten middle child. It's really, really interesting category. And it's one that I've been, last week I saw an advert that really frustrated me. It was a skincare brand. It was in a magazine that my mum had, and they had a woman, obviously the face of the brand. She can't have been older than 30, not one wrinkle on her face, and she had dyed grey hair. So just by putting grey hair on someone's head doesn't make them think that's going to relate to somebody of that generation, of whatever generation they were trying to target, which I'm sure was not somebody in their late 20s. So these brands that are really succeeding are the ones that are not afraid to speak out, not afraid to change the conversation. We're seeing a huge rise in brands talking about menopause, for example. It used to be such a taboo to talk about these kind of things, but we're getting brands that are targeted at these kind of this Generation X age group. So it's really about niching down as well. I think a lot of brands sometimes are too scared to focus on one demographic, but actually it's a massive opportunity. Know your customer, know your target market, and really think about how you communicate to them. Another one of my clients as well has got an amazing brand where she's really breaking down the taboos about pregnancy, kind of pre and postnatal. She's changing the narrative on childbirth, and she's not afraid to explain the realities of what actually happens. It's not pretty quite often, but she's created a hugely loyal following as a result. She's called Nessa Organics, so I would also encourage you to check her out as well. Some of the actions that I think you can take from this is really don't be afraid to communicate to your customers in lots of depth and detail about what you're doing, whether that's why you're doing it, how you're communicating your values, what is your, I suppose, sustainability or your supply chain ethics. So a content strategy is an absolute crux of the brand these days. It's about your USP, it's about your point of difference, it's about how you're standing out. But once you've stood out to those customers, it's then about how you're communicating to them. How do you keep them highly engaged? And take customers on that journey of, okay, wow, this is something that's for me, this is the point of difference, but actually just delve a lot deeper into lots more detail that you can share about your brand, why you've created it. This ultimately will lead to more sales because it really builds that trust and authenticity with the customer. So think about how you exceed your customers' expectations and also create that conversation as well, get that feedback. Think about what your values are and also the values of your customers and how they overlap and how you interact based on those. It's just about being honest and transparent as well. Don't try to do everything. Identify your lane and stay in it. It's also okay to declare what you're trying to do and by when as well. Explain the journey. People love this and nobody is perfect. So just being transparent about your journey along the way is a massive opportunity. So moving on to section 2. So what people will be buying and why. So we've seen a huge shift in fashion trends in the Western world. Sustainability, fast fashion moving to slow fashion. There's a lot in the news about factory conditions and supply chain visibility. And quite simply, no one's been going out for a year as well. So the trends here are really thinking about the resale market, the repair market, and also rental as well. We've seen athleisure is a key category that is obviously boomed and is here to stay as well. And then how this kind of blends into kind of more everyday wear, so comfort wear, workwear as well. Smart fabrics in fashion and kind of real fashion technology really kind of coming into its own as well. Particularly with smart fabrics, wearable tech and how that starts to integrate with clothing as well is certainly going to be the future. And you'll now be on my email list, so I'll be sending you out a fashion technology report that I've recently contributed to for an investment club. So keep your eyes peeled for that in the next couple of weeks. So it's really been about conscious consumerism. People have been thinking about how to spend their money, where to spend their money, and what on. Everybody's been in a different situation over the last 12 months. There's been a huge rise in people having more disposable income, a lot more savings. There's been a huge rise in people being worried about their finances, potentially being in difficult situations, not knowing what the future holds for them. As a result, there's been a huge amount of brand switches. So people have been really thinking about what they're purchasing and why. So this is a great opportunity to really start to understand what your target customers are purchasing and really trying to connect with them. So as I said, fashion and supply chain is really becoming more important, as well as sustainability in manufacture, from fabrics, the carbon footprint, factory ethics, to also water consumption. A huge amount of water can be made in making denim, for example. In beauty, we've seen a huge rise in the ingredient trend, which has been here for a while. But actually, this is going to just this is just going to expand, and people just want to get into much more detail in this. So it's not only what's in your products, it's taking things to the next stage. So what's the performance of these ingredients that are in there? Where are they sourced? How potent are the ingredients? Waterless, again, is becoming a big trend. And I think this kind of whole water thing, whether it's in fashion or it's in beauty, is a massive, massive trend that we're going to start seeing because, yeah, waterless just makes products just much more potent. It's often a bulking agent. And also the weight of shipping products that's full of water as well is hugely costly on the carbon footprint as well. Again, this carbon footprint of natural products as well. So where are we importing all these natural products from? And what is the impact of that over time if we still continue to see this rise of naturals? So this kind of clean and natural buzz is over. The future is a hybrid of science and nature. So I've been talking for a while about the future is biotechnology, certainly for food and also for beauty. This is lab developed ingredients from natural sources. So having the benefits of nature without the overconsumption via the demand going up, essentially genetic engineering, which is super, super exciting. And a great example of this is avocado farmings. I'm sure most of you on here will be eating an avocado at some point this week. But actually that's causing the huge surge in popularity. It's been causing deforestation. It takes a huge amount of water to grow avocado crops, and it's causing huge droughts. And of course, the cartel tax in kind of South America as well, it can be a huge issue. So customers are wanting to find out this level of detail about what they're purchasing and why. What are they consuming, whether it's their food, their beauty, the clothes they're wearing. So it's a real opportunity to be explaining to customers the whole supply chain story. And this is a great content theme for your brand or retailer strategy as well. So beauty has always been buoyant. Every recession, it's been called the lipstick effect. Not necessarily a lipstick effect this time with obviously the rise in wearing masks, but certainly lip stains and semi-permanent lipstick will be an opportunity. But we are going into a phase of glamour, the roaring 20s. So eye makeup is going to be absolutely huge, and dressing up to go out. So the return of toning for men and think glamour of the 1920s revival. So it's going to be a super exciting opportunity for when people do go out. They're going to really celebrate the opportunity and really appreciate it as well. There's a massive opportunity for kind of tapping into some of those glamour trends that are coming down the line, which I'm sure everyone is super excited about. So obviously well-being has just kind of fast-tracked understandably in the last 12 months, and kind of how people are creating these well-being experiences at home, which again will continue to be there. People have been kind of having these rituals for some time now, so they're here to stay. So they really, the products that people will be purchasing will be linked to how purchasing these products will make them feel. So we've seen the surge of at-home beauty rituals, everything from the bath and body category to at-home beauty treatments as well, to lighting a candle and just kind of having that aroma and kind of chill out in that 5 minutes sometimes of kind of quiet or wellness. We've seen a huge rise in CBD as well. Anxiety has reached new levels of high, again, understandably. Absolutely huge in the US. The UK is slightly behind that growth, but is growing very rapidly. And it's also starting to grow very quickly in China as well. Another brand that I work with, kind of a hot new one to watch, is called Lady A, which is a CBD brand. Again, there's going to be a huge amount about the quality of the ingredients in CBD, and people really going and learning in that level of detail as well. And Lady A is one of those that has got very high quality ingredients. Supplements are also on the rise. Again, people really thinking about their body, what they're eating. And I think also really think about, if you're in the beauty arena, that look at what's happened with food. Everything from the ingredient trends that happened in food has also happened in the beauty industry as well. So really thinking about what we're ingesting. So supplements is a massive one. Again, a statistic here is 35% of UK millennials have taken vitamin minerals or supplements to improve mental well-being in the last 12 months, according to Mintel. And also really linking this to the anti-aging market is huge as well. Another brand I work with called Youth and Earth is a great one to watch. They have got this newest supplement called NMN, which is super exciting. It helps repair DNA at a cellular level. So it really is kind of one of the key elixirs to anti-aging as well. So that is one to watch. So I mentioned a few of the indie brands that I work with through this online education program, and I will be following up with you with kind of the links with those, also a special discount as well, because I am absolutely passionate about championing indie brands, supporting their growth, because ultimately they are the future. Another opportunity here is gifting. So as I mentioned, I recently contributed to a WGSN report, and the focus of this was on gifting. And there's been this huge surge in lockdown of people sending gifts. One of the key messages that was called out in here, that most people were sending a gift to somebody, and the reason being was just because. They didn't need a reason, it didn't have to be occasion, but people just wanted to send a gift, something thoughtful, something to stay connected when they couldn't necessarily be close to them. So again, this is a massive opportunity for brands. People have got very used to purchasing gifts online. So actually, why not just continue to send gifts online rather than purchasing it, getting delivered to your house, wrapping it up, etc. This also raised quite a few questions about sustainability when I was kind of chatting to them, and really thinking about, there's obviously an excess of packaging quite often with gifts. But actually, if you have D2C channels, if you're a brand and you're on here, it's really thinking about how you provide gifting solutions on your website. This really doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to create special sets or coffrets, as it's very old-fashioned word used in the beauty industry. Simply adding the function on your website to be able to send a gift that includes a gift note, has the potential for gift wrapping that could be recycled, and doesn't include a receipt, more importantly. So just those three things, and you could really potentialize what the gifting opportunity is. And also including that in your content strategy, of course. So consumption in general is really being thought about. So we all know we probably consume too much, and this conscious consumerism is really becoming top of mind. So when you are communicating to customers, really make it count. It's harder than ever to get cut through as a brand or a retailer in a sea of content and a sea of kind of different discounting and pricing everywhere. And as people do start to consume less, but what they do buy, they want to make it count. So they won't stop purchasing, but you need to fight for that customer, create that connection. So be the brand that they love, that they choose to purchase and rave to their friends about. So this is about taking your customer engagement to the next level. So some actions to think about from this section is to really think about how, if you're a wellness brand, brilliant, you're on track already. But actually, if you're not, how can you collaborate or integrate with wellness experts to integrate into your content strategy? Collaboration is absolutely key to growing a brand. There are so many brands and businesses out there, and they all want to reach a new audience. So really think about how you can collaborate with somebody who is in your network. I'm sure you have some people kind of just at your reach if you put your mind to it. Creating a gifting program is very, very simple to implement. And really think about explaining as much of the product journey as possible, and think about how you use these as content themes. To create transparency, to increase trust, and also to educate. Customers want to know every sort of level of detail now. It's really exciting. So really keep focused on the engagement. So I'm going to talk about the evolution of retail now, physical versus digital. So what I will say here is pre-COVID, the beauty industry, and actually the rest of the world wasn't, kind of the rest of the categories aren't far off either, that digital only accounted for 20% of sales in the UK and in the US. I saw a recent report by McKinsey that said in the US, they estimate the penetration post-COVID could rise to 35%. So that's still only 35%. That still means the majority of purchases, 65%, will be made in physical retail. So retail is not dead. This drives you wild. It's a huge evolution, which is massively exciting. It's just been fast-tracked. I've recently been reading the Leonard Lauder book, which is super exciting, and I would recommend to anybody to read who's a retailer, a brand in any product category. He's been around a long time, he's seen it all. But actually this redistribution of shopping channels, retailers, locations, it's all happened before. And it's all cyclical at the end of the day. So it's just a redistribution of what people are buying and where. So there's certainly some learnings to be had from there. And it's how you adapt to these changes that are happening, that are being led by what's happening in the world and, of course, the customer. So it's all about experience, engagement, retail theatre. And of course, you probably knew I was going to say that. I feel like I grew up at Selfridges, having spent 12 years there, and it's absolutely ingrained in me. But again, this isn't revolutionary. Harry Gordon Selfridge, when he launched the store 1909, over 100 years ago, he's been doing that ever since then. He brought beauty to the ground floor. It used to be on the 4th floor because only the prostitutes wore makeup. But actually he brought it to the ground floor to allow everyday women to be able to experiment and try products. He brought the gloves out from underneath the counter, put them on top so people could try them on. So it wasn't just a display, it was interaction. He had the first ever plane that landed on that he had on the roof as a kind of an exhibition. And he also had toilets for women, the first in London, because yeah, women were not allowed to do much, and they certainly weren't allowed to go to the toilet, so they had to go home if they wanted to do that. So yeah, he was a pioneer, but actually a lot of these things have been happening for a really, really long time. So it's really thinking about how can you adapt and evolve. Go back to collaborations. So collaborations, again, is a huge, huge opportunity. We're seeing it a huge amount in retail, particularly in the US. Sephora and Ulta, who are partnering with Kohl and Target to create kind of these mini, I suppose, concessions, the shop-in-shop model, which is super exciting. I'm excited to see if any of these are going to happen in the UK. I haven't kind of got wind of any yet. We're seeing Marks and Spencer, for example, following a branded model to improve their density. They've been resistant to years, I think. They probably wanted to own all of the profit margins by having own brand, but actually they need a more diverse range of products. And they've also done the Marks and Spencer's Ocado partnership on food, which is super exciting. I don't need to dive in today about the decline in Debenhams, House of Fraser and John Lewis. It's all you've read about. And that's, if you believe the headlines in the news, that you'll think that retail is dead, of course, but actually there's so much more that's going on behind the scenes. It's the same as Topshop. Philip Green famously saying, well, the internet would be a fad. Well, it's not. Don't need to say any more than that. So a great question I've got for you today, a bit of a challenger one, is what is holding you back in case you think that COVID, the last 12 months, it's a fad and things might go back to normal. What are you thinking that's holding you back? What are you pausing on or stalling? Because now is not the time to stall. It's the time to move forward and try some new things. We're seeing John Lewis reassessing their store portfolio, obviously closing quite a few, reducing their footprint, and of course capitalising on putting some smaller formats near Waitrose to capitalise on that footfall. So there'll be a lot of these kind of hybrid models coming through as well. People really need to think about where are the customers going to be, where people are going to go on a regular basis, whether it's to an office, it's a co-working space, it's a yoga studio. So what are these footfall and how can shopping experiences be put nearby? So again, thinking about partnerships, we haven't seen necessarily a huge amount of physical ones, but certainly seen some digital ones. Ocado helped bring beauty to Next, which was a product I worked on with the collaboration with Fabled by Marie Claire. And then that resulted in the sale of the business, which was super exciting. That was actually pre-pandemic in 2019, I think. And also Next is a real business to call out. It's been in the press in the last week and it's absolutely one to watch. They've released quite a lot of kind of easy to read and digest statistics, which are also all in the annual report, so available for anyone to see. But actually they are here to stay. They have future-proofed their business, which they did way before their pandemic. They've really invested in digital and they've reimagined their store format as well. And made it a real hub for click and collect as well. So do not ignore them. They're not just a high street own label brand. They have a huge brand of business now. They're new to beauty as well. And just really read about kind of what their strategy is. And Lord Wolfson's kind of said he was focused on making money rather than a 10-year plan, which has been quite interesting because actually in the last year, his profits have soared and he's in a very different position to what they'd forecast a year ago as well. He's exceeded his own expectations by focusing on making money rather than this 10-year plan. So definitely something to consider. As the market's evolving quickly, being able to pivot is an absolute must. We've seen Feel Unique create a new marketplace model. They obviously have a new, probably not so new now, a new CEO from Amazon as well. They've launched more brands as a result of having this marketplace, from Jo Malone to lots more independent brands as well, which is super exciting. And also the Hut Group, Ocado and Next are all service providers providing platforms for brands as well. So they have more strings to their bow than the traditional retail selling products model. So there's lots of really, really interesting business models happening in retailers at the moment. So I saw it's a statistic that's already been announced that brands are investing, that 34% of brands are already investing in physical experience. So some of these brands are kind of way ahead of the trend, and they're seeing what the opportunity is going to be as people kind of get back to going out a lot more. So Anya Highmarsh has announced that she's creating a village. So she's not just doing a pop-up shop, she's doing kind of a village where she's got lots of different services in, coffee shops, I think a hair salon. So really kind of creating an impact with her brand, which kind of knowing how she normally works with kind of any installation or pop-up or campaign will be hugely, hugely creative and exciting as well. It's also thinking about where in the country is your brand being sold? Where's your footprint? Obviously, a lot more people will be working from home. I think there'll be more of a move to out-of-town shopping as well. And I think this has always been a massive missed opportunity for people. Everything has very been London-centric before. It's very hard to get cut through in London because there's always been so much going on. But actually, marketing campaigns, pop-ups, events, and kind of curating these in kind of more regional towns and cities is a massive opportunity. We will also see more collaborations as well. So from brands to services to workspaces, community, events, all to create footfall, which is where kind of purchasing will be happening. And then when we do go shopping, there needs to be excellent customer service. The risk is cutting costs as more sales revenue has gone online. And we've seen this happen in the past. So it needs to be focused on true omni-channel. We almost need to remove the word channel and really think about the customer more. And it's about having a true CRM with the customer, wherever the customer decides to shop, either the website or the sales assistant knows their information and their purchase history and is able to service them and exceed their expectations. We're seeing marketplaces popping up all over the place. You obviously know Amazon, obviously, is a key marketplace there, but there's lots of indie marketplaces, which I think is really interesting as well, where they're curating a selection of brands based on their target customers' needs or values. So what is a marketplace? It's a curation of brands on a website. It's one payment by the customer. It's usually then drop shipped and delivered by the brand. So the marketplace is holding no stock. So I think the challenge here is how do you really create a point of difference when customers can easily search by price? So it's really about their content strategy for the marketplace, how they're building trust and authenticity. And then I also think the marketplaces that are going to win are going to be the ones that are going to be curating pop-up shops. It can be hugely expensive to implement a pop-up shop, but actually if you do it as part of a brand, I suppose a brand collection of like-minded brands, this is a massive opportunity. So really kind of doing this with the indie marketplaces, I think will be an opportunity. And then finally, this is the last section, I've probably kept you for long enough, is the digital customer experience. So this is super exciting. I mean, obviously everything has been fast-tracked here. We can already shop via AI, AR, in beauty, virtual fitting rooms for fashion, body scanning and fitting technology is kind of becoming more and more prevalent and will be introduced into a lot of kind of the mainstream brands as well. So there's really going to be there's all these tech solutions, but actually the massive opportunity is how is there a hybrid of people and technology in store and digitally as well. I think this is the absolute future because people will be tiresome of tech. They certainly don't want to go into a store and just have tech. So actually, how can people better serve customers through utilising both? But let's really look at the future. Let's see what we're already doing, because I've kind of got this kind of blue sky image of what I think the future will hold. So we're already watching videos with friends on social media. We're already shopping via social media through Instagram, for example. We're already socially sharing with people what we're purchasing, why, what we're thinking of purchasing. We've got Twitch in the gaming community, which is certainly one to watch, where people are just kind of having this conversation and communicating all the time. From WeChat in China as well. There's a huge growth of live shopping in China. And of course, we already have QVC here, which is growing rapidly as well. And they have multiple different channels. So it's this gamification of purchasing is happening. And you need to be looking at the gaming world. It's certainly a younger generation, but I think 70% of kind of the teenage generation are gaming right now. It's the future generation of customers. So yes, think about the untapped markets like the Gen X, but really think about our future customers. So what the future is a metaverse. So have you ever heard of what a metaverse is? So it is a collective virtual shared space. And it's created by the convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality and physically persistent virtual space. So it's amalgamating lots of different virtual worlds, augmented reality, and of course, the internet. So what I think about this is actually some of this is already happening. We've already got all of these components which I've just described. And also, do you remember where social media started? It was chat rooms in the 90s. So actually imagine those chat rooms from the 90s. This will be just a supercharged, highly animated version of what the future customer digital experience is, the customer experience will be. Getting too excited. And it ticks so many boxes. Creative content, opportunities for user-generated content, create social proof because you can check in with your friends, what they think, and you can social share as well. Ease of purchase if people are already in these kind of these worlds, these kind of rooms, and as well kind of this digital customer experience. So all of this coming together will start to create shopping experiences, branded experiences, and also sponsorship opportunities as well. We're seeing some brands already that are sponsoring the gaming world. MAC, for example, collaborated with to create limited edition lipsticks with a game called Honor of Kings. So this is the digital future, and it's actually not that far away. It's all happening in slightly different ways, and it will start to come together to be the future of digital. So I kind of wanted to leave you with an out there concept. It isn't actually that crazy when you break it down, but actually, yeah, it's one to think about for the future. But actually, you can't also ignore physical shopping. People want that human touch. But if they are going shopping, they want something that's unique, that's different. So thank you so much for joining me today. In summary, it's all about seizing the opportunities. It's about reacting to the changes that are being fast-tracked and also being energized by this opportunity as well, which obviously you can tell I am. So the biggest brands rise from every recession, and they will do from this pandemic as well. So I'm super passionate about innovation and change. And if you would like any help in refining your strategy to maximize the opportunities that I've talked about today, because there will be an explosion as this new decade really, really gets going, please do get in touch. So we advise corporate brands and retailers for strategic reviews to increase their market share through to brand founders with our online education programs. So you can email info@WIZZ&CO.com, which Laura's kindly put in the chat. And it's not a time to stand still. So if you're thinking about it, just do it. So thank you so much for joining. And I will take some questions. So Q&A. Yes, thank you, Dee. How much you can say now? Yeah. Sorry, hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming. So answer live. Okay. So Sophia, if you mentioned Clubhouse, this won't alienate those who can't join, especially those on Android. I want to be sure if I want to be inclusive and make it accessible for all. Yeah, absolutely at the moment, but it will roll out to Android, of course it will. But I suppose it's trying things out in the early stages. How do I get a customer's attention in the textile field? Think about your content strategy. Where's your customer shopping? What they're reading? Create a target demographic. So I have a course, obviously the membership program, which really talks about how to engage customers, increase your sales. So have a look at that one. And I've also got a free masterclass as well, which is about the customer journey. So if you head to the website and download that, that will definitely give you some ideas. Sarah. Any top tips that can help smaller brands, e-tailers compete with all the online offers that large companies have? I find this really challenging in terms of margins. Absolutely, and this will always be a challenge when you're kind of a multi-brand retailer. But it's really about how you create engagement with customers. There's lots of platforms that you can actually integrate a loyalty program with, so I would definitely think about that. Actually in the membership last month we talked about loyalty, so I think that's definitely one to think about, and if that's something you're interested in, you can, if you join, you can catch up on that. But yeah, think about loyalty programs. Rebecca Rose, the book you mentioned. Oh, Leonard Lauder. So obviously is Estee Lauder's son, who is now think in his 80s, but he's written a book on his life. So I would thoroughly recommend reading that as well. Linda, British living in Sweden, but indie e-commerce selling to UK, yeah, selling traditional herbal medicine. Great. Any tips for breaking into the UK market? Brexit doesn't help. Well, I think the UK markets and the US they're always big markets to focus on for sure, because it's a massive opportunity, because people are looking to these markets to see what the trends are as well. So obviously kind of do all your kind of legalities and import and exports that you need to know. If you need to know someone in a warehouse, I can introduce you to, so message me directly on that one. I've got a great contact there if you wanted to create a warehouse here. But yeah, I would pitch for tea for sure. I would yeah, either target direct-to-consumer customers, but also focus on some key retailers in the UK as well. I also have a program about how to pitch to global retailers. So if that's something you want help with, I can certainly help you create your pitch so you're able to get in some amazing UK retailers. Emma, what platforms do you recommend for engaging with Gen X? Yeah, not TikTok, Facebook for sure, and some Instagram as well. So just really go into your kind of, depends what, I don't know the product it is that you're selling, but really kind of go into your customer profile, delve deep into what they're doing, not just their demographics, and really start to understand who they are, and then think about where you can reach them. Okay, so I think that's it in the Q&As. Brilliant. Thank you all for joining, and I look forward to hearing from you soon and seeing what you tag me in on social media as well. See you soon. Bye.